well, how do you succeed? I'm like, well, be good at what you do it on time, do what you say you're going to do, and then do that again and again and again and again.
Hello, I'm Tammy Hahnemann, a maker, digital content creator, someone who works in many different mediums with a true passion for helping others find their creative spark. I also really love to connect others who have something to share with those who want to learn. Welcome to Heart and Hands of a Maker, the creative journey. If you found us, chances are you're on a quest for creative inspiration. Maybe you're feeling stuck in an artistic rut, dreaming of turning your passion into a flourishing business, or maybe you're hoping to see your work in print or grow your online presence. Well, my friend, wherever you are on your creative journey, you're in the right place. Today, we're talking with Jill MacKay, a findings and component designer, digital content creator, jewelry making expert, mosaic artist, and so much more. We could keep going. We'll be discussing her creative journey because there's so much there, explore her business evolution, and see what she's got coming up next. It's time to grab your favorite beverage, settle into your creative space, and meet Jill. Jill, welcome to the show.
Hello, Tam, my dear friend. I can't pretend that you're not one of my oldest, most wonderful friends. I'm so happy to be here with you.
And I am so happy to be here with you. It's selfish we get to have this time together because it just is, it's so special. Just me and you sitting here talking.
It's we're glad.
Oh, well, but I'm so glad to be able to offer the world a little bit more about who you are because as you said, we've been friends for such a long time and I know so much about you that you keep to yourself and people should know all about your wonderfulness.
Well, see how much I keep to myself.
It's true. It's still your purview. Well, run us through. Take us from wherever you want to start to wherever you want to head, and then we'll get into some.
Well, you asked me once about my creative journey, and for me, it started since I can remember. So I kind of grew up in a scary place in a scary time, and I found out that drawing and making stuff, I felt safe and whole and present, and so I just kept doing that. And I was good at it. So but more than anything, it made me feel good. So I just kept doing it. And then later on, I knew that, wow, that was really the only thing that I was pretty good at, that I needed to know how to turn it into something that could provide for me and my kids. So sounds a little corny, but my mom put me in museum classes when I was very young, so they let me join much older children in the museum classes, and I loved going there and smelling the oil paints and seeing people sculpting, and it was just a very rich environment for a young person. So.
That's wonderful. And it was good that you identified and had the opportunity to draw and have that release, especially if things were more challenging and you didn't fully understand how to process all of that. That was how you had some relief. That's really, not every young person has the opportunity. So it's good that somehow you found that path and that your mom helped foster it.
Yeah, I've always been pretty fascinated with nature, and thought that the first thing I ever drew was a blue jay. Oh. And I'll never forget just how beautiful that blue jay was. And I just wanted to be able to make its image on a piece of paper. So I also loved learning how to write cursive. It was like drawing to me. I can't believe they don't teach cursive anymore in schools. It's crazy.
I don't know how they expect young people now to read our handwriting, because one, my handwriting's not great, and two, it's in cursive.
Yeah, right. I guess they never have to write checks, so they can just print their name or something. I don't know. It's crazy.
It is. It's such
a new world.
Right. And so I think that for me, as I've known you for all these years, the one thing that truly hits home is how you never stop and you never let technology get in your way. You never let change get in your way. You just keep changing and evolving and finding your way. Like teaching yourself Illustrator. Like, I'll never forget, like, oh yeah, I'm teaching myself Illustrator. I'm like, what?
Well, I taught myself what I needed to do in Illustrator. Illustrator, I think you could learn forever on Illustrator. But yeah, I do remember going from pen and ink to digital, and that was crazy. So I remember spending hours and hours and hours on pen and ink drawings, and then my daughter coming along and tipping my ink when I had stepped away, like 70 hours in, and it was like, and then Photoshop was like, oh, I can just go beep, and it goes
Undo.
back. Can I have something for my life like that? That would be great. Can I call do over?
Yep. Undo. Let's undo that.
Yeah, undo. Yeah. Oh,
Eraser.
out loud. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's great. That's great.
But,
Well,
so right. Technology, because you have to remember I'm old. I'm 67, and when I started there wasn't internet, and the libraries really didn't have much. I mean, there really wasn't a lot of content out there to learn from. And I remember when I did go to be a business, there was only one woman I knew in the whole city, anywhere, that was making a living as an artist. And fact and point that only 10% of all artists make a living off of their art. So it's not easy. I feel very lucky.
It's not easy. And you're very humble in feeling that it's luck. I think you are just very talented, and you also work to find the right inroads and the right path, and you never, ever, ever, ever give up.
Well, I think luck is when opportunity and preparation meet. That's my definition of luck. Yeah, so that makes sense, right?
Yeah, of course, of course.
You do have to be looking and aware.
Yeah, true, and prepared. And sometimes you're preparing for one thing, and then another thing comes along, and also to know if do I need to now prepare for that so I can do it, or should I just stay my course? And you also have been able to navigate this pretty solo, you and the kids, and just kind of figuring out life. And that couldn't have been easy.
It wasn't easy, but I don't think life is easy. I don't know anyone that's life is super easy. I think that on Facebook, everyone tries to make it all look so easy, but life is a very messy, very, just scratch the surface of anybody's life. And, you'll find some stuff there that they're dealing with. That's why it's so important to be kind all the time, because you never know what anybody else is going through. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you've offered healing and mentorship to so many. I know that's a big part of your life that it may be in the past, but I feel it's something you've carried forward. I don't know if you wanted to share anything about your learnings there.
When I early on as an artist, teaching was what you did because that was where the opportunities were, but I wanted to do more. And so I would make contact with organizations in different places where I saw that what worked for me as an individual could work for others in a group setting. And so I sought out different opportunities, and they were amazing. And I found out that giving to others gives me so much more. So I found it was really kind of selfish, because it really does give me a lot, and my problems seem smaller. So they didn't have a name for us. Now they maybe at one point they called us community artists, but it was artists that use creativity to help solve social ills and deal with mental health issues and all kinds of things. And I was deep into that, but I soon realized that it didn't pay the bills for 3 people. So I became more of a capitalist and went into, designing. When I did the craft thing for a long time, I was very lucky in the 90s to find the Society for Creative, it was called the Society for Craft Designers then. And it was just a group of women that worked in the creative industries, and that you could go to their conference and they had classes set up to mentor you from what to wear, what's the etiquette on the show floor, how you approach, a publisher, all of these things. I felt like I had really hit the jackpot. And then the internet came along, and I had to really study to learn how to negotiate, to be professional. And I had so many questions. And boy, people nowadays that are really just starting, I don't think they understand how fortunate they are to have all of this knowledge at their fingertips. It's amazing.
I agree with you, but I was in a conversation recently, and the person said to me, like, what do you do at a trade show now? What do you like? How do you introduce yourself? And what, like, do you give them a business card? So as much as there's information out there, I feel the in-person, or at least the mentorship, is still needed.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. Well, and you are quite the outstanding person, darling. As good as you are at everything, my goodness, I've learned a lot from you, and I admire what you're able to do. And I think as an artist, you need to know what you're good at and not good at, and work on the things you're not good at as best you can.
Right.
And to continue to teach yourself all the time. We're always learning, and technology is always changing. It really, if it just ticks me off, because I was like, I gotta learn again. Oh, darn it. Use my brain. Oh, but it's true. It's always moving, and it seems to be moving faster and faster. And pretty soon there's gonna be a faster internet, and it's gonna get crazy out there. So, in a good way, but
Yeah.
in a very different way. I love to study the entanglement theory and all that kind of stuff, and what they're doing with it right now to create new supercomputers, and how fast things will be going much faster soon. They just launched their first nanocomputing satellite in the last year, and it's the rate at which it's exponential, the rate at which things are changing. We live in a very fluid time. It's crazy.
And it's hard to know what to hold on to and what to let go past you.
I know.
Like, oh, yep, no, you kids keep on going. I'm going to just sit back.
Yeah. Well, simple really works for me. And simplifying your life and your work life is not an easy task. I'm good at it because I've become kind of simple-minded, but it also really works for me. You really just got to find what works for you. So,
well, and if you were you 30 years younger in the beginning of wherever, well, I don't know how long have you been doing this thing? How long have you been doing this crazy life?
I've been, yes, since.
So put yourself in your 30s. What would you tell yourself now? Like, what would you suggest to somebody who may be starting out and may be thinking like, oh, I've been making things and I'd really like to.
Yeah, I think I would tell myself and others to really think big, don't, and to learn that other people's opinions and doubts you do not have to take those on. I used to care so much about everybody's opinion and what they thought of me. And then I realized that it was such a waste of time and psychic energy. I mean, I only have so much energy each day. And putting it into that was a very poor choice. And the way the mind works is the more whatever thoughts you're working with, or if it's a lot of doubt or fear. So to me, I really simplify things down to, is that decision based out of fear or love and creativity? And it works for me. That sounds so silly and simple, but whenever I choose from a fearful place, it really never goes very far. So.
Yeah. And I do feel, at least the people that I've talked to, that fear is such a driving force in their lives. We're all worried about money. Where's the economy going? What's
Right.
going to happen to interest rates? I mean, all of these things that just breed more and more and more fear and scarcity. And it's a hard lesson. So your words are very impactful and meaningful. And
Mhm.
even if you have more energy to give than what you're saying you have, I think it's important to conserve it and put it in places like you're saying, in places
Yeah.
of love and creativity.
Yeah. I'd also tell myself, so a long time ago, I was fairly uneducated, went to yeah, I think I graduated high school with, and I'm not exaggerating, with like a fourth grade education. And I read a book once called The Seven Highly Effective Habits of Successful People or something. I think it's Stephen Covey,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And in one of the practices I took on from learning what I did from that book is that each day I I I prioritize and I try to do the things that I know that will reap the greatest reward. Well, like what one thing can I do this day that's gonna make the most difference from here on out? And I also try to get the things that I don't enjoy doing, I try to get them done first thing in the morning so I can really enjoy the rest of my day because like most humans, I really dread certain things. And because it's just not my thing. I also think it's really important to make sure that you have people that surround yourself with people that have that talk about ideas instead of other people. I just
Mm.
think that's really important. So I'm
And
I may not be that smart, but I hang around with some very smart people and I love them. So,
that's good advice. And I think especially for young people, because they really grew up with the internet. They grew up with social media in whatever form. I mean, MySpace, right from the beginning, these kids, like who are now young adults, like they really, that is their life. So
yep.
it's a part of their day. Like for me, it was TV. I watched a lot of television. It was kind of like my babysitter, but we
Mhm.
also played outside.
Yeah, we weren't allowed in. Yeah.
Yeah, if my parents were home, we were not allowed in.
Yeah, me neither. It was like,
No,
we'll let you know when dinner's ready.
yeah,
Yeah.
just come home when the street lights come on. I mean,
Oh, that was basically right. Even though it was pretty dangerous where I lived, and didn't matter. You had to be outside. So,
yeah, yeah. So it's
I,
just it's different, and it's hard to I think it would be good to listen to your words over and over and over again as a mantra. No, I'm not even kidding, because it's so hard. It's so hard to avoid social media. It's so hard to avoid reflecting what other people have and wishing it was you and not really seeing through to what is real,
mhm.
because you think what you're seeing is real. Your brain believes what you're seeing is
It's
real.
true. And there's like two brains because when you're actively engaged, your that brain is the healthy, smarter, more intuitive one. And then there's the one you're judging and reflecting and being
Mhm.
scared and
Mhm.
doubtful. And that one really wastes a lot of your time. So
Mhm.
learning how your brain works is actually something that I had to do after concussion. And I'm so glad I did because now I know it's not that hard to create new habits and
Mhm.
learn, you just it's so the neural pathways in your brain are like if you think of them as like a wagon wheel leaving little ruts, and the more you have the same thought, those ruts get bigger and bigger and are harder to get out of.
Mm.
But if you can get out of them and make new trails, then it's your brain actually so fascinating. I mean, we don't know that much, but what we do know is really, I study a lot of things on positive thinking too. I think that's very important.
I can tell, because your words reflect such positivity, even in times of, challenges and whatever it might be you're facing or what other people are facing. You always have a positive way of
Yeah. That's a
helping.
choice. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's a choice.
Hmm.
Definitely a choice. Yeah. It really is.
So you had it was the Society of Creative Designers, is that what it was?
Society of
SCD,
Craft Designers. Yeah.
Craft Designers. And then there was HIA and CHA.
And that's where they all worked.
And that's where, because I remember I was not a part of that group. I mean, I was at the conferences, but I wasn't a member of those groups. So to me, it was a very well run, thought out, productive environment. Is there anywhere now where you are a member of something similar?
No. And I do like doing, what do they call it? When you meet with people and you all support.
Like a mastermind or?
Yes, I love that kind of stuff. But I do that on my own pretty much anymore. Everyone's so busy, it's ridiculous. But back then, the women that started that were real leaders because it started immediately. Well, designers were not allowed on the show floor. I remember.
What?
Yeah, we were not allowed on the show floor. It was only for buyers and yeah, so it's real. I mean, and these women were like, no, we're going to be on the show floor too. And they made that happen. And I mean, as a woman, when I first started out, I didn't use I used J MacKay. I didn't want people to know I was a woman because doors would shut in my face as soon as they knew I was. Yeah, it's just crazy. It's just fascinating how it all continues to develop and sometimes it moves forwards and like right now I think it's going backwards.
We're slipping.
Just buckle your seatbelt.
Hold on, everybody.
It's crazy, but I think our gift to culture is what you have to focus. What is it you're doing? What is it you're best at? And what is it that you have to offer that nobody else or few may, So figuring out your niche is difficult. I can tell you that, I was a part of that craft designer for a long time. And I had young designers that came up to me and would say, I have been trying to do this for 10 years. What should I do? And I was pretty honest at a certain point and said something else, So that sounds terrible, doesn't it? But 10 years, if you've given 10 years really trying and you haven't got foot in the door, something's not working. I didn't have a choice. So a lot of my choices were just made out of necessity. But when I got further along and did have a choice, I made those choices out of what I want to do and what I was good at. And I never pretended. Like I knew so many people that took designing jobs that they really weren't qualified to take just because they needed the money. And then it ended up hurting them because they didn't do a great job, right? So I watched that happen and I was like, ooh, I'm never going to say yes to a job just for the money because if I'm not good at it, if you're doing something, you better be doing it at your best, So certainly not because you need the money.
Right. Well, and I think that's another fear decision too. You take a job for the money, even if you can do it, it still may not be the right job.
Right. And there was also, I had friends we all bid on these jobs, right? They would put out a call for, we need an artist for this or, and we'd all bid on these jobs. And there were certain designers that would just undercut the rest of us. And I literally, in these meetings, I would get up and call people out and say, okay, we're not unionized and maybe we should be because what's happening here is they give you the job because you're the cheaper, is that really how you want to operate? I kind of want us to all be able to make a certain amount, let's set some living wage situations here as artists.
Yeah.
And I got people mad at me, but I mean, that's an important thing to, you can support each other, but undercutting and getting job that way is I think that lacks integrity. So
Yeah. Well, and I think depending on where you are in your craft and what it is you do, and
mhm.
at what point you're intersecting the retail side of it, it's
Yep.
very hard to set your price. And I think it's one of the number one questions that I would get in any position I held where I was answering anybody's questions or supporting people in their endeavors. And
Mhm.
there's no formula for it, and there is no union, and
No, it really isn't.
there's no guidance. And some people, they really just need that $5 to be able to go food shopping.
It,
And
it's true. Now
mhm,
that's true. But I really always felt like you get what you settle for. So if you settle for $5 for a job, I've been in that position. I was in that position for
mhm,
years. I used to call my one friend that I was talking about earlier and say, I worked 78 hours this week and I'm not making it. What should I do?
mhm.
And she'd say, more, do more, you know? And I did. There were years where I worked 70 to 90 hours a week. And because I didn't know what I was doing. I had to learn,
Mhm.
while you're beginning, you have to learn as you go, really. But it's so interesting that people still ask you about the show floor and stuff. That's wild.
Yeah, that question came up just today on a call.
Wow.
I
That's
know. And they're a young designer. And I also, I'm not in their space. So it wasn't really my place to answer, but just a general basic practice of,
right.
and, I get it. And they just don't have experience because
Right.
maybe they were affected by the pandemic. Who went, there were no
Well, the
conferences. There were,
pandemic changed everything.
exactly, exactly.
It changed all parameters.
Hmm.
It's just crazy. But luckily for us creators, we became, very helpful to everyone at home when we doing digital content. So that was, in that way, that was very helpful. But it also, we all isolated again. And you told me just recently that you went to NAMTA Creativation, and that it was very different. And a lot of the companies that we knew to be at those shows were not at those shows, which I'm like, well, where'd they go? And how do people learn? And
Right.
it's everybody has become more closed in, I think,
Mhm.
and learning to approach people that you don't know. I think that's just hugely important. Learning how to do that and to interdel. Well, you also really kind of need to know what's going on in your space. Whatever your space may be. Mine for years was just crafts. And I was doing so many different things that I wasn't really progressing
Mm.
as much as I wanted to. So I just decided on one thing to focus on. And that's when my career took off.
Wow.
Really made a difference.
What was the way you figured out that it was that you like, how did you know where you wanted to be, or that you wanted to be further along? I mean, personally, I struggle with that. Like I and you said it earlier, like, just don't think small. It's like, how do you find that, and how do you recognize that?
Well, I think part of it is necessity, and part of it
Mm,
is what you see for yourself. What do you want your life to look like? And if you don't know what you want your life to look like, then it's going to look like something different. And it'll always look like something different than we think we want it to be. It will always be different. But if you can see a future for yourself and imagine things that really inspire you or make you happy, and get to that space, that's huge. As far as how I did it, really, I just was always choosing the next best thing for myself and my kids. And I didn't know how to do anything but creating. Nothing. I'm just not that great at anything else. So I had to provide for three of us. And what made the most sense, but I also allow myself to dream. And when I dream big. So I, I've told this story 100 times about I decided back before the internet, I decided that, well, the only thing there was TV, like you said. So I decided my work needed to be on TV so lots of people could see it, right? So I started calling costumers for television shows and made an appointment to go to New York City. And almost everyone in my family and a few people I thought were my friends said, "You're wasting your time. You're wasting your money. This is ridiculous. What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, thank you for your support." And I went anyways. And wow, it was the easiest thing I ever did. And it opened so many doors. One little trip to New York. And I became the designer for the guiding light. And then immediately after leaving their offices, I went to Bloomingdale's and said, "Hi, I'm the designer for the guiding light, and I want to have a trunk show," and got that. And then I went, I just, you go from what you just build your next success off your last success. Yeah. So it's pretty, but don't listen to people that don't believe in you. And if people don't believe in you, I wouldn't consider them a friend.
Right. Right.
I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah. And often when they're telling you you can't do it, it's because they don't believe they could ever do it. So then how could anybody do it?
Right.
So they're projecting, but you hear it because it's directed at you. I know I internalize all of that.
I used to, but I had to learn how not to, because because it was also disappointing, right? I mean, it can hurt your feelings. And so then you're allowing them to hurt your feelings, and then you're wasting more time having your feelings hurt. So it's a real choice to decide what you're going to react to and what you're not going to react to. And it takes time to learn how to not react.
Well, it's more habits.
A lot of us are super insecure.
Yeah. Me too. And it's, so if I think about, if I build a formula for what you've been sharing, it's like you have to have a budget for how much energy you have for the day, and you have to have new habits to teach yourself to not react a certain way, so you don't deplete the budget on things that don't deserve that time from you.
Exactly. I think thank you for putting that. So if I could have said that so succinctly, I would have.
Well, you did. You did in a very beautiful way.
It's really interesting to me. Like, I think if we get out of our own way, if you can stop thinking about yourself, your mind then has more room to be creative. And mastery is important. So they say, how do you become a master? It's like, what? When you do something like 100,000 hours. So I love being in the act of creating, because my mind shuts off and I go to that flow state, and that flow state is very real for me. And it's where I just say it's where I live, because it's my favorite place to be, except with my friends or my lover or whatever. But it really is my favorite place to be. All the problems of the world disappear. My heart calms, my blood pressure goes down, and really cool things happen. Really great things happen. It's almost magical to me. It sounds corny, but
no, it doesn't sound corny at all. It sounds like a great place to be.
Yeah, it is a great place to be. I know you know that place very well.
I do. And I think for me, I can identify with that, especially during the pandemic, because of the way that the world was upside down and my career was on a different path, and I was no longer really in a creative space. So my downtime, I was just knitting, because it wasn't something I had to sell. It wasn't something I had to write instructions about. It was like I could just touch something, make something, and finish it or not.
Yep. Don't you think that creating on demand is something that really takes time to learn?
It's a totally different skill set.
It's totally different. And to become a professional designer, or whatever it is you want to call it, or do your space, you have to learn that. And it does change it. But you can get to a certain point where you still get to have that flow state and that space within it, and I protect that at all costs, so that's why I've worked alone a lot. But you never work alone. You're never
No.
really working alone, even when you know you're always, it's all about relationships. And used to tell young designers that, when they're like, well, how do you succeed? I'm like, well, be good at what you do it on time, do what you say you're going to do, and then do that again and again and again and again.
Well, and to your point on relationships, I mean that having a network of people also is important. It doesn't mean you do everything with them, but just to have connections.
It's huge.
And I feel this, the people that I'm talking with, they don't have that network
Really?
because of the way life changed. And like it's hard, and it's a hard thing to explain. They're like, well, what do you mean? Like, I need to join an organization. I'm like, well, that's where the people are that are your
That's
people.
your people.
That's where you
And
will
when
learn
you
what it
find
is.
the people,
Like, the
it's
answer to your question is
exhilarating.
among your people.
You know.
I can only tell you so much and share so much with you. You need to find your people, and joining organizations and being a part of a community of like-minded people will give you the answers you're really seeking.
And you'll
And
also find some of your best friends there.
yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
And to have best friends in your field, there's nothing like that.
No, there's nothing like it.
I think the big picture is we're always focusing on the details. I love big picture thinking.
Okay. Well, and you're giving so many amazing offers of sage advice that it's like amazing. Oh, it is. It's and really for me it is very sad that people have lost the ability to understand what it means to go to a trade show and how to be on the trade show. Like that,
that's a big deal.
I learned on the job, but many jobs aren't sending these people, or they don't have a job, but they know they need to be at these places. And it's like, what do I do? Like that's hard.
It is hard. I think that I learned a lot when, instead of what can I do for you, what can I do for you, what can I do for you, which is putting all the power in their hands, I shifted my perspective to what can you do for me? And that was a game changer. That really was. And sometimes I just come up and say, wow, I can see where you need help here, But to not have those opportunities, it's terrible. So I don't know. I think they're not the same as they used to be, but I'm pretty sure there's some still out there. I have a little thing that I live by, and I'm sure you've heard it. I have Cherokee in my family on both sides, and my grandfather, 5 generations back, was the last chief and made of the Eastern Cherokee and did the Trail of Tears. And there was a story that was passed down to me, and it was so helpful. And it was the tale of the 2 wolves. Have you heard that one? It's so great. May I share it with you?
Please do. Yes, thank you.
It's an old Cherokee grandfather is talking with his son and his grandson, and he says there's always a battle inside of us between 2 wolves. And one wolf is evil. It's angry and envious and jealous and self-pity and guilty and all the negative things. It's inferior, and it has false pride, and it lives for itself. And the other one is a good wolf, and it is joy and peace and love and giving, serenity, humility, forgiveness, truth, and compassion. And the grandson and the son ask him, well, how do when that struggle's always going on, which wolf wins? And the grandfather says, whichever one you feed. Isn't that cool? I love that old story.
That's wonderful.
And that is the truth. That's what we've been talking about. It's really very true.
It's a wonderful way to think of it and put it in a perspective that anybody could understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so you are still creating, you're still drawing, you're still designing. What is fueling you now? What are you excited about, and where are you headed next?
Well, I love my forte is actually designing components, and I'm pretty excited that Kirsten Aiello is opening a because I'm gonna start making my findings through her. I was actually going to be working with her when Tierra Cast went sideways, and I'm so excited about having someone that I really love and care about making my stuff, my components, my findings. So I'm very excited about that. I am trying to work on a book that has lived inside me for a very long time, from my time when I worked at the Grieving Center for Children. And but really, I keep continuing to find ways to bring depth into jewelry making, so it's not just making a pretty little bauble, and to make it a bigger. So storytelling in jewelry is something I'm trying to learn about right now, and it's really a lot more fun than just, well, this goes with that, and it's there. I think part of mastery lies in learning all the basic things you need to know. For instance, my friend Chico, who is a famous jazz musician, and he just stresses the basics to his students over and over and over. And for us, I had to study design basics. And so you can forget everything you know and then just do it in that state. So it's really it's a practice, and so it's not just making a living, it's making a life. And but that's how I choose to do it, because I like my life pretty calm and quiet. So
Well, and writing a book would be such a gift. It's not your first book by any stretch,
no.
but it would be such a gift to bring your idea forward.
Yeah. Well, right now I think it's timely because, and we're talking about, these would be activities for bereft children, and so the statistics on bereaved children are such in this country that 1 out of 12 kids will lose a parent or a sister and a brother by the time they're 18. That's a lot of kids. And while I was working as artist in residence at a grieving center, I helped open with Mr. Rogers and a few others. Um, I developed all the programming and all the creative things that worked, and they were tried and true, right? I would find what worked and what didn't and why, and then adapt to more of what worked, less of what didn't. And I've had these projects living in me for a long time, but I really, there's a time for everything, and innovation has its own cycle as well. You can hit it before it peaks, after it peaks. Its timing is really important. But right now, after the pandemic and with all the craziness in the world, the suicide rate is really high, and parents are overwhelmed. And when you lose a spouse, you're so overwhelmed, and you have to then still be there for your kids. So, and not every family lives near a grieving center or even support groups. So I thought a book might be a good idea that people could come upon easily, and then follow these simple projects that give everybody something to do while they're in a lot of pain. I mean, it's just a real thing. Pain is real. And America seems to be like, oh my God, when are you going to get over that? You're really bumming me out. It's just like, yeah, oh my Lord, it's so shallow out there sometimes. It's just scary. I used to do a lot of things at hospice, and they would give me the nurses would give me the worst cases that they didn't even want to deal with. And I would go in and figure out ways for families to communicate again that hadn't communicated in decades, because this person was going, or we created, I would families don't know what to do with themselves when the certain things happen. There is just out of their control, right? So I would come in and I would figure out something after interviewing or really talking to everyone, and we would make something together with the dying person. And then when that person passed, they had this wonderful thing to hold on to. And they said it was a lot of times people came back to me and said it was as important, more important than going to the gravestone, if, you know, or whatever, the final internment. But yeah, it was difficult because I had to, it's very real when you're right in the middle of it with these families. It's very real. And that's where you learn to put yourself aside, and beautiful things happen. Really beautiful things.
Well, you're beautiful. Your
You're
soul
so,
is so beautiful.
oh, I love you, Tam. You're gonna make me cry. Stop. I think the world of you, and I'm so blessed to have so many good friends. But I think having good friends means you got to be one, you know. So, and I think we've really touched on something with the network of creatives, right? Because if you look back over you and Katie and I mean, there's all been times when I was the one struggling and you guys helped me out, and you took a turn, Katie took a turn. We all take turns constantly, but I mean, honestly, I called Katie one time and I said, "What can I do to help? You know, anything. What do you need?" She was like, "I need 2 articles by blah blah blah." You know, and I was like, "Okay, I can do that." You know, and then that stress was gone. So I just, I don't know. I think that's how it's supposed to work. I do.
It is. I just feel the internet and time and space between
Mhm.
those opportunities don't present themselves in a way that you are still able to see them despite the internet and time and space. Like, you carry with you this gift that you continue to give and give and give. And you've helped show me how to be a better human.
Oh, honey, gosh. But the giving, so to have people that care about me, to me is just so huge. It's just huge. And it means so much to me. Um, Especially that we have so much in common, you know. It's that's such a gift because I don't have to explain anything to you.
No, that is fun because we can just like get into a room and be like, okay, da 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 da. You don't need to take an hour to set it up.
I know, right? We're like, oh, and who did that? Oh yeah, what? Oh, it was just in Tucson was so much. Oh man, I don't know. You know, don't I? I'm can be when I'm out there. I'm very out, as you know. I'm loud and obnoxious, and goofy, and that's because I really am an introvert, and I spend a great deal of time alone. So when I'm out, I'm out. But I have fun whatever I do. But having time with your friends, boy, you know, I look for ways to make those things happen, just like you do. You know, so your priorities are really important. You know, what's really important to you.
Yep, and they're really good to keep in front of you so that you don't lose track and let life just
Yeah,
totally
yeah,
take over.
it's very, very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love love. I mean, like, I'm seriously addicted to loving and love. Serious. It's like a drug for me, really. And being a good friend and having friends. I'm just blessed. That's what I am. It's just like I just got this house to live in because a friend of mine went, "Oh, would you like to live in this house?" I'm like, "Yes, I would. Thank you." Yeah, it's crazy. So I really do. Yet I'm not a religious person. I am a very spiritual person, but not
Hmm.
religious. And I really do believe whatever you give comes back
Hmm.
much bigger. So don't forget to give. You know,
Yes, give and
yeah.
love and be kind.
Be kind. Oh my gosh. I think I end every one of my lives by saying, be kind to others and good to yourself. You know,
Yeah.
it took me a long time to learn what that meant to be good to myself, right? You know, first you have to feel that you deserve to be, you know, it's just crazy. My little brain, you know, It sounds, I don't care how it sounds. That was real for me. I mean, really. I suppose it is for a lot of people. I don't know. You
Most
think?
of us are told we don't deserve.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember in the fourth grade, I had this really cool teacher, and she told us all to save a dish soap container at Christmas, right? We had to have it by a certain date. And then we made them into angels. I thought this was the coolest thing I had ever done. I was like, oh my God, we just took a piece of plastic and so the whole room, everyone had an angel on their desk. And I was like, oh my God. And I went home and showed my parents. I was so proud of it. They were like, your pride is too much. And it just squished me like a bug, you know? So I also think people need to know there's creative monsters out there. And by that I mean I remember drawing in grade school and my sky was just full of them, and the teacher came by and went, skies are blue, you know, and I'm like, wow, I guess you haven't been looking really, you know. And I think that there's a very big difference in looking and seeing. And when I taught drawing for 18 years, I taught people how to see, you know, not just look. So, and that's a real insight, being the difference in seeing and looking. Seeing involves so much more than your eyes. It's,
And I guess it's something you can teach because you really help people see past what's right in front of them. Where
well,
drawing isn't something everybody is able to do, everybody can see.
well, everybody can learn to draw too. I mean, I learned this from Betty Edwards, who wrote
Oh,
Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And I read that book when I was really good at drawing. And I tried every project in it, and my drawing became like 40% better. And so I would get all these people from young to old. I can't draw a stick figure. And I'm like, no problem, you know. And most of the projects in the book teach you how to shut off your left brain, how to trick it out of being involved, and those are the two minds I was talking about, the actively engaged, and the one that's judging. And once you learn how to really see closely and deeply and slow down and really see, then you can record what you see, you know. But shutting off that noisy brain is really important. I've done battle, I call it the inner critic, and I've done battle with it all my life. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
so much wisdom in your beautiful brain.
Oh, good grief. I came by it honestly. None of it the easy way, right?
No, but you give of it easily too. You just give and you give and you give.
Life is so precious, and you just never know how long you're going to get. Boy. The
Make
guy
the
I'm
most of
seeing
every
now,
day.
his name is Rick, and he said the other day, he goes, who are these people that say live your life as if it's your last day? And I'm like, I think those are very wise people. He goes, I think that just sounds crazy. And I'm like, why? What are you talking about? And he goes, well, you wouldn't make decisions. And I'm like, well, you can't, you can't just stop and run off, you know. Maybe you're thinking of it in a different way, but to understand how precious it is, and make your decisions, and each little choice that you make wisely is really important.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. He's a little more black and white in his thinking.
sounds like.
Yeah. That's not what we mean. We don't mean to like go rob a bank and live off the money
Yeah,
for the
right.
day, because that's
Yeah,
not.
right. Then drive off a cliff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, no. No Thelma Louise.
Pulling Thelma and Louise.
But he's a pilot, so he gets a pass because that's how his brain works.
Yeah, he works in 4 dimensions, and they're all right now.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So it's very
Yep.
interesting.
And it's either right or it's wrong, and you would
Right.
never want to be on the side of wrong.
Yeah, you know, yeah, he couldn't err on the side of wrong. It's true. I'm still learning how. It's so interesting to learn how people's brain, you know, everybody's different perspective. To me, it's just fascinating always, until it's not. And then when it's not, I have to go. So I have to say that I'm so particular with who I will spend my time with.
Well,
Period.
your time is precious and it's important to you.
Yeah, but I have I mean, I have had people that came to me and said, I really like to be your friend. And I've had to, there's just no graceful way to say,
I don't have time for you.
I don't. Yeah, I don't have time with my friends of 47 years. So making new friends, but I do make new friends when I really meet someone like that. I feel like I've already been friends with them forever. I
Yeah,
keep them,
sure.
and, but you can only have so many really, really close people because, in my opinion, that means you really need to be there for them as
Mhm.
in the ways that you can, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
It's a real, it's like a bank account, man. You can't make withdrawals if you haven't made any deposits. So
Hmm. All right. So you are working on a book proposal. We're hoping this book becomes real because I know it will serve a lot of people in a very beautiful way.
mhm.
You are still doing all the amazing things, but really, what else are you working on? I know you've got a lot cooking, so what else is going on?
Well, I spend a good majority of my time. I do 2 lives a week, and I broadcast them out on different social media. But I'm going to learn how to broadcast from my own site, so I don't have to depend on these social. But right now, I still do. But I am so I do a live every Sunday at 1 o'clock Mountain Time, and every Wednesday 2 o'clock p.m. Mountain Time. And I also have a private group because people love to show what they make. And I have an online bead store basically where I sell my components. And so what I really, it's kind of like vertical marketing. What I do is I will make jewelry from the things that I sell on my website. A lot of people are really liking kits right now. And for most of my career, kits were never anything that sold. So I'm just flabbergasted by the fact that is happening. So, but I think, one of my favorite things to do is to find really quality things and break them down into smaller uh, bit sizes so people can afford them. Everybody loves quality, right? And but there's a lot of people out there just selling market beads, and to me, market beads means what you could find when you go to other countries, and it's everywhere. For me, this is working. I have one person working with me who's so good at so many things that I'm really bad at. So I'm very lucky to have Donna, and but that's really a good portion of my income. But I am always still thinking of something else really fun to do. So that's what that's what I'm doing, Tam. That's a lot.
I love it. I love it. Well, and being and having it be fun is key. I mean, like you said, life is short and we've got to make the most of every day. So why not have what we're doing be fun?
Yes, I totally agree.
It's wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. And we'll put some links and everything in the show notes and kind of capture some of your essence so that the highlights are mentioned there. People will know how to find you. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, no, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really been such a pleasure. And it's always a pleasure for me to meet people like you in my creative journey, and then to have the opportunity to share you with other people to me is such a gift. So thank
It
you.
was a real gift for us too, and I love your series because it's so interesting to hear about other people's journeys. Right?
Yes,
I
yes,
love
yes.
being part of your journey.
Oh, well, the feeling is mutual. I love you so much.
All right, thank you. Bye.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on another episode of Heart and Hands of a Maker. It's been so wonderful sharing this time with you. Thank you for tuning in. And if you want more, be sure to head over to tamarahaneman.com/podcast for today's show notes and links to make it easy for you to find Jill. And to be sure you never miss an episode, follow Heart and Hands of a Maker on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you so much.